This is Story Saloon, short stories, centre stage. I'm Jane Messer. In this episode, we're going to hear the short story Aitu, written by Oliver Coulter and read by Chris Alosio. Oliver is an emerging Northern Territory-born writer of Samoan descent, and Aitu is a remarkably assured and compelling story for a writer still in the early days of developing their craft. It was first published in the journal Going Down Swinging. It's read by Chris Alosio, a rising star of film and television, known for his roles in Talk to Me, Next Goal Wins, and Fighting Season. You'll hear the love he has for his Samoan culture in every sentence that he reads. A note of explanation. The word Aitu is a Samoan word that refers to spirits or ghosts.
Aitu by Oliver Coulter. The headlights of a 92 Honda Civic mined the desert highway. Isaac and Artemis drove through the nights in shifts in the frail white shit heap, painted ochre by 7 days through country. Artemis hunched over the wheel, not quite stoned, not quite sober, watching the serpent lane line shimmer across creation, the shit heap traversing a creature without head or tail. Isaac sat off duty in the passenger seat, chopping more dope, missing the show. You know, particles can't be observed, said Artemis. They change their behavior under observation. Isaac contemplated deeply or wasn't listening. Artemis tuned the radio, roaming links of static, scanning for company. Local talkback crackled, a feeble signal beaming in from afar. He could feel himself getting drunk on narratives. What was the name of her village again? His village. She had told him enough times. Family land was waiting for them back on Upolu, an island he only knew from her telling. She had attempted to school him on the whaamatai and the politics of family chief titles, perhaps in preparation for his imagined appointment. She broke their village's name into bite-sized syllables for him, but he still mangled it. A native tongue sitting heavy in his mouth as boiled offal. She would scold him for his white ways, his father's influence. When she didn't, perhaps she was scolding herself. Culture was preserved by the orator through word and fire. She was not afraid of death, but she was afraid of this. What happens to the word if there is no one to speak it? As they closed in on Darwin, Artemis could taste old country, the Northern Territory of his childhood. Dirt, wet clay, approaching rain hanging like a midnight reprieve. The air was thick too with local customs, the heady scent of smoke, custodial burning off nearby. The Honda followed the dead lights above, starlight reaching earth like burning orbits, and the driver doubted the direction of his blood. Seafaring ancestors had circumnavigated the Pacific in walkers, eyes precise as calipers, guided by the cartography overhead, and Artemis couldn't even name one constellation. They would have sung songs to remember the ways, the nuance of the Samoan tonal, a kind of harmony without lyrics, at least to Artemis's ears. He had a natural aversion to practicing it on its own. It felt crude as the wooden cover bowl it would have been shared over. Was he embarrassed by its apparent rawness or by its sincerity? An alphabet of 14 letters, 3 more on loan, but always stumped by the komaliliu, the glottal stop, a guttural throat sound that exposed any needy outsiders, Palangi activists riddled with colonial guilt, or even more shamefully, an afakasi not raised in the Fa'asamoa. These were proud warrior storytellers, you see, and more than any war club, the mastery of the word commanded respect, recounted lineage, and placed oneself before the listener. After all, the story of your arrival defines you. How can you say you are here if you do not know that story? Everyone can see a lost Aitu, but he drifting without knowledge of his history, his people. Thinking's worse for your health than dope, said Isaac, reading Artemis's crowded mind as he admired his perfectly rolled joint. You don't have to go over kicking over every rock. An itch needs a scratch, said Artemis. You know, once you have syphilis, you can never get rid of it. Isaac looked at Artemis like he was patient zero. Fire in the hole, he said. Lighting the joint before cracking the window, the gushing wind was so humid it had density, whipping around them like a flock of trapped birds. The scent of tobacco swirled, then dope, the tail end of an ounce. The sticky concoction revived the dormant high slinking through Artemis's blood. Isaac went to pass the joint out of habit, saw his friend's face, and showed mercy, declining on his behalf. Artemis killed the talkback radio and listened to the wind screaming through the window. Attuning to the chaotic white noise, he remembered reading once that TV static was cosmic background radiation, remnants from the Big Bang. Was there anything to be extracted from the wind? This swarm of particles filling his ears? The shit heap hit a bump. Suspension crunching, lifting the passengers in their seats, punishing the V4 engine on an unrestricted length of the Stuart Highway. Searching for the Honda's limits, Artemis felt himself on the verge of his own and backed off the accelerator. There was no outrunning the stowaway in the back seat anyway. The shoebox of ashes. Artemis had deliberated over an appropriate vessel for the ashes. He was as fluent as he could be in his mother's secret network of symbols and numerology, she being its sole practitioner. She used to keep count of red vans, decipher neighborhood number plates, track planes so far overhead that they might not even have been there. In the end, he accepted practicality as a divining force, packing the shoebox in a calico bag with the rest of the luggage for the long haul up north, from Melbourne to Darwin on an improvised cannonball run. The shoebox was stowed safe under the driver's side seat, nestled behind a moth-eaten bark cloth mat and a King James Bible with photos, letters, and keepsakes preserved between its passages. The plan was to release the ashes on an ancestral land. The ocean off Darwin was as close as he could afford to get. The ashes would drift via Pacific currents, weaving through watery veins back to the old country. It was as good a plan as any. It seemed elliptical enough for her. Artemis would sometimes hold the ashes and wait to feel something, enacting symbolic gestures until one stuck. As a boy, he often wished something dramatic would happen to him, something simple and elegant. And now that something had happened, he wished he had been more specific. Artemis could taste ash fine as snow. When a white flash, a creature shot across the road. Instructors will tell you, don't brake, don't swerve. Go straight through. It's too late by the time you can react. Artemis swerved before he realized what he was doing. The animal went under the wheel. The sickly sound hit like a bump of cheap speed. Isaac swore and dropped the joint. Artemis punched the brakes, the seatbelt yanking the breath from his lungs. The Honda slid towards the irrigation ditch, that steep dip which would surely flip the shit heap. Artemis closed his eyes. He felt a hand on his, correcting the wheel, gently steering in the direction of the skid instead of against it. The Honda came to a jagged halt in the oncoming lane. Smoke rolled through the headlights. Artemis blinked, rubber and oil, a rising burnt smell, a scent that gave off heat. Isaac released his hand. You okay? The engine ticked. His heartbeat ticked. Fuck. Isaac thrashed in his seatbelt, pinched the joint from his lap, threw it out the window. Jesus, Art. I'm sorry. Never swerve. I know, I'm sorry. And definitely don't close your fucking eyes. Isaac leant forward and covered his face, sweat dripping from his nose. The car was littered with everything that had tried to exit through the windscreen. Artemis remembered the stowaway. He twisted to the back seat, tangling himself in his belts. The shopping bag was gone. He tore through the flotsam until his fingers found hard edges. Plucking it from the detritus, he clutched the shoebox of ashes and placed it on the back seat, gently, careful not to wake its contents. Artemis peered in the rearview mirror. The fox lay on the road, silver as a ghost stopped mid-flight. The smell of her essential oils, sandalwood, coconut, frangipani, had clung to her old bed, now turned back into a couch in a communal lounge room again. Artemis and his roommates stripped the sheets, a silent ritual to heal sharehouse relations, compound fractures more severe than 100 years of unwashed dishes. The oils had stained the couch. They left it on the curb with her driftwood collection, raw material waiting to be taken by the tide of bin night. He once dreamt that she tied them to an outrigger, following a blueprint woven through blood. Some nights, he still woke to her laugh, checking the lounge room. Nothing but aitus at midnight, fleeing with the flick of a switch.
The live readings for Story Saloon at the Vanguard were recorded by Martin Gallagher. Your host has been Jane Messer. A big thanks to the whole Story Saloon team.